tragedy as well. Autism destroys families. And more importantly, it destroys our greatest resource, which are our children. These are children who should not be suffering like this. These are kids who, many of them were fully functional and regressed because of some environmental exposure into autism when they're 2 years old. And these are kids who will never pay taxes. They'll never hold a job. They'll never play baseball. They'll never write a poem. They'll never go out on a date. Many of them will never use a toilet unassisted. And we have to recognize we are doing this to our children. Sir.
You listen to something like that. This is RFK Jr., director of HHS, talking about what is objectively, don't call it a pandemic, but what is objectively an increase in numbers. Call it an increase in numbers because of better diagnoses. I call horse crap on that. Call it an increase in numbers because of environmental factors. Call it an increase in numbers because of certain jibby jabs or the rate at which children receive various jabs, which they call it debunked, and I'm not so convinced it's debunked anymore because I have grown somewhat wiser that the harder they say debunked, you can't question it, the more you know that it might not be quite as unquestionable as they make it out to be. You listen to RFK Jr. talking about what is effectively a crisis in America. How can anyone twist this in any partisan negative way, you might ask? Let me just play this a little again here.
This is an individual tragedy as well. Autism destroys families. And more importantly, it destroys our greatest resource, which are our children. These are children who should not be suffering like this. These are kids who, many of them were fully functional and regressed because of some environmental exposure into autism when they're 2 years old. And these are kids who will never pay taxes. They'll never hold a job. They'll never play baseball. They'll never write a poem.
We'll pause it there for a second. Let's just look at the rates of autism. From 6.7, 1 in 150 children in the year 2000 to 1 in 36 children in the year 2000, whatever we're in now, 2020. Give or take, that seems to be when the graph goes until. That's indisputed. So you can call that whatever you want. You can say what it's not attributed to or not attributable to, but you can't say that it's not happening. And when you have RFK Jr. coming out there and saying it shouldn't be this way, you don't shame people for being born with deficiencies, physical or mental. You don't shame people for developing physical or mental deficiencies throughout life, but you sure as sugar don't aspire to have that as a new normal. You certainly don't celebrate it. And you have RFK Jr. come out and say something not innocuous, objectively true, and what is objectively a tragedy. And instead of the Democrats, won't someone think of the children Democrats saying, you're damn right, RFK Jr., there is something wonky in Chinatown. That's not I don't even know what the hell the expression is. Instead of people saying, there's something wrong here that we need to address, you have them virtue signaling, normalizing the fact that a disproportionate number of children now are suffering from severe mental conditions. Listen to what Gwen Walz has to say. Let's take a brief pause from this video for a word from our sponsor, The Wellness Company. People, let's be real, losing weight isn't just about looking good, it's about taking back control of your overall health. 42% of Americans are classified as obese. Obesity is directly linked to severe health issues, including heart disease, diabetes, stroke, and cancer. These illnesses are costing Americans over $173 billion a year in medical expenses alone. If you've tried diets and workouts with no success, it's not your fault. Big food, big pharma have rigged the system against you by contradicting information, leaving you confused. The Wellness Company just launched Drop, a GLP-1 peptide oral drop formula developed by their chief medical board, specifically designed to support your metabolism, curb cravings, and help you shed weight. That's right, no injections or the risk of severe side effects. Simply take Drop in water, gradually increasing quantity over time to let your body adjust and rest. Start your weight loss journey today by getting TWC's Drop. Go to twc.health/Viva for $50 off and free shipping. That is twc.health/Viva. Promo code will get you $50 off. One last time, that is twc.health/Viva for $50 off and free shipping. Thank you very much, TWC, for sponsoring this video. And now back to the vlog. Gwen, no balls Walz, but she's got a reason for being no balls Walz, the wife of Tim, Tampon Tim, no balls Walz. This is what she writes. Because you got to virtue signal. You got to defend the indefensible. You're going to notice a theme for today's show. This is deeply upsetting, especially coming from our nation's highest ranking health official. I thought when I read the first two lines that what she was going to say was deeply upsetting were the numbers. No. What she finds deeply upsetting is RFK Jr.'s characterization of the severely autistic. Individuals with autism are family, neighbors, students, and coworkers, and they contribute more to this nation than this man ever will. Shut the fudge up, you flipping idiot, Gwen. All right, Gwen. Do you hear yourself, Gwen? That, first of all, making it a comparison. So now we're going to like the metric of a man or a woman is how much they contribute to society. So that if we find non-tax-paying citizens, do we then say that they're less of a contributor to society and therefore less valuable as citizens? Because that's where you're going with this, Gwen. Individuals with autism are family. Yeah, we all have a family member with autism. That's not normal. We all know a friend who has a kid that has autism. That's not normal. And they contribute more to this nation than this man ever will. Go screw yourself, Gwen. Crawl back into your stupid virtue signaling hole and do not come back out of it. Like, people need to forget about Gwen Walz and Tim Walz. No, it's a comparative thing now. We got to celebrate it. I reply, like, I don't understand. Do you want more or less autistic children? Is the issue to address what's going on here or not to address what's going on here? Now they got to say, we can't address the problem. We've got to vilify the guy who's highlighting the problem. Oh, they will contribute more to society than you ever will, RFK Jr. So now we get to like look at people and then judge them as to how much they contribute to society to determine their worth. I'll take a poll, but I don't really want to do a poll. Everybody knows somebody that has an autistic child or has one in the family. But one of my best friends, I don't make public stories that are not mine to make public, but everybody in their family has an autistic child or niece, nephew, whatever, at this point in time. My best friend has a non-verbal autistic child. And by the way, just for context, not that anybody with half a brain and half an ounce of integrity needed the context, the broader context of it was RFK Jr. talking about the severely autistic, which I think accounts for like 25% of those diagnosed with autism. You got your high-functioning Asperger's, you got your high-functioning autism, and then you've got your non-verbal autism. Pierre Poilievre, he has a non-verbal 6-year-old. Whether or not the child will grow to be verbal, we'll see. You touch wood and you hope. My best friend has a non-verbal late teen, going to be an adult. You don't understand the level of stress that creates on somebody. We're young, but we're not going to live forever. And we are young and we can take care of our children. But when we're not there, who's going to take care of our children? Normally, the children grow up to be adults and take care of themselves. A non-verbal autistic child does not grow up to be someone who can take care of themselves. Then they become wards on the state. But you got Gwen coming out against RFK Jr., partisan bullshit because she's too much of a freaking coward and a partisan hack to address the actual problem. Defending the indefensible. Virtue signaling to distract from the underlying problem because God forbid we admit that there's a freaking big problem going on. Whether it's the jabs, the vaccines, the amount that they give you, the aluminum that's in them, the mercury that's in them, whether or not it's the amount that they give, giving hepatitis B shots to a newborn, whether it's mercury in canned tuna, whether it's environmental, whether it's chemtrails, whether or not it's energy drinks. It's not this energy drink because this one's good. There's a problem, Gwen, and picking on RFK Jr. is not going to solve it.